Today we are celebrating a birthday. Birthday glasses on. The Golf GTI is 45 years old and there's been a bit of a family get-together. There's also a brand new Golf GTI, the Clubsport 45. But before we get to that, I thought we'd have a catch-up with a few of the older members of the clan. Starting with this one. I know, you're surprised, aren't you? You thought I'd go for one of those two, but no, this one. Wish they did these in prescription.
Right, let's get this birthday party started with a guest from the mid-90s.
Now you might think it's a bit odd that I want to start with the Mark III Golf GTI because it's not exactly the most loved from the pantheon of these hot hatches. However, I sort of did most of my learning to drive on a 1.4 CL Mark III Golf, and so this is a bit of a trip down memory lane. I also always wondered when I was driving around in that 1.4, what would the GTI be like? Of course, the fact that this does all feel, well, quite familiar to a 1.4 CL veteran is part of the reason why the Mark III was never a great success. It just didn't feel GTI enough. Didn't feel different enough. This at least has got the better engine because when this came out it had just 115 brake horsepower from its 2-litre naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine. It was 8-valve, and so they brought out a 16-valve which did take it up to 150 brake horsepower, drops the 0 to 62 mile an hour time from over 9 seconds to around about 8. Still not exactly brisk. And of course, whilst this 16-valve engine is better, you really have to rev it to get the most out of it. You only got 11 pounds-foot more torque, up to 133 pounds-foot of torque. Here we go, second gear. Not a lot, not a lot. 4,000, getting there. Oh, 5,000. Now we're talking, and yeah. Makes you work for it. And then you get to the corners and not a lot of precision. No. It does feel nice and sturdy at least. Brings back memories of a young 17-year-old catchpole herring around the lanes. That 1.4 only had 59 brake horsepower, I think. That you really did have to work.
Jumping forward to the mid-noughties, the next guest I want to reacquaint myself with is the Mark V GTI.
Hello old friend, the Mark V GTI. This brings back memories. One of these was my first official long-termer when I became a motoring journalist. Just like this one actually, white, 3 doors, the 18-inch Monza alloy wheels, which you felt would sort of curb as soon as you got anywhere near any kind of masonry. Thankfully I didn't curb mine, but a nervous 12 months. The only thing that really was different about mine was I had the tartan cloth seats rather than these leather ones, but otherwise, yes, I had a manual obviously as well because this was the first GTI you could get with the DSG box. It's just such a nice design, this car. It's got the blue dials there, nice and simple, 4 dials, the 2 big and the 2 little in there. And there's something sort of, yeah, perhaps not sophisticated about the design, but just chunky, and it works. And there's so much of this car outside and in that you can sort of trace all the way through to the Mark 7.5 really. Other things that I like, these, I don't know, just for some reason, the heated seat dials there. Simple, but they work really well. This steering wheel, still one of the best steering wheels. Just a little flat bottom there, no buttons on it, unadorned, but to hold, so good. Forget this only had 197 brake horsepower, but it feels quick. This of course was a birth of the EA 888 engine, which still exists in the GTI today. The Mark V of course was hailed as really the rebirth of the GTI. It just feels so solidly built, this car. I love this. I nearly bought one of these actually instead of my Clio, but the Clio was quite a bit cheaper. May yet have to try and buy one though. Rides well as well, actually. This is a really bumpy bit of road. One thing I do remember about these is that they were surprisingly leery. You could get quite a lot of lift-off oversteer in the wet when you weren't expecting it. One incident I shall never forget. Oh yes. There's an argument to say that guests at parties don't get any more entertaining than this. But there is one GTI that is even superior to this. This is the Clubsport S, arguably the greatest GTI ever. It's appropriate I've got the lap timer up here because this did a 7:49 around the Nürburgring Nordschleife, which made it the quickest front-wheel drive hot hatch at the time. Obviously, no back seats, a host of other changes, masterminded by Carsten Schebstadt, who was, also the mastermind behind the 997 GT3. It is so good, this car. I had a Clubsport Edition 40 as a long-termer, which is basically this car with back seats, not quite, but as close as you could get to a practical Clubsport S, and I loved it. There still hasn't been a more powerful Golf GTI than this either. 310 PS, so exactly the same as the latest Mark V GTI Clubsport. Passive dampers, that VAQ diff at its best, just the balance of it. It's so good. I wish I had more time to spend with this. But the guest of honour is about to arrive at the party.
This is the new Golf GTI Clubsport 45, resplendent in King Red, and it costs a princely £2,800 more than a Clubsport.
Now, to celebrate its birthday, obviously this car has been given some presents. Well, it's got its party frock on for a start, so we've got some decals down the side, and in here we've got a little 45 badge on the steering wheel. Apart from that though, there's not really anything else in here to say that you're in the 45 edition. There we go. Other things to mention, well, this has got a special set of wheels, the Scottsdale wheels, which are 19 inches. They kind of look pretty good. They look actually quite small. They look smaller than 19-inch wheels because they've got a pinstripe around them. The top speed has also been increased up to 166 miles an hour.
You also get the fancy IQ light package, which includes the LED matrix headlamps. Oh, and the door mirror housings are black, which you might like.
Perhaps the most expensive present that it's got is, the Carfection exhaust. I'm a big fan of the Carfection exhausts on GTIs. This one, it looks really good. I have to say, actually, I don't think it sounds that much better than the standard GTI Clubsport's exhaust, which sounded far better than I expected. So, yeah, looks good. I'm not sure we're getting an awful lot more in terms of sound, but there we are. Still get some nice pops and bangs under the right conditions. Now, because it's only its 45th birthday, it's not a really big birthday. You know, it's not 50 or 30. So it hasn't got all the presents it wanted. There are still some options you have to add to this 45 edition, namely DCC, which is dynamic chassis control. And that's quite a big one, I think, really, because I tested the standard Clubsport without it, and I was intrigued to see what difference it would make. Thankfully, this particular car has had it added as an option. It's just under £800 for DCC, and I do think it's worth it. Strangely enough, it's not so much for what it adds dynamically, because although it has got the fabled Nürburgring setting, which just keeps the dampers a little softer, I think it does work really well on B roads, as it did in the Golf R performance pack that we tried. But it's more a case of just it gives it more breadth, it makes it more comfortable the rest of the time. So because the GTI is very much an everyday car, it's something you want to use all the time and on a variety of roads and a variety of journeys, I think having DCC, it, as I said, as I suspected, gives it more breadth. 45 or not, I do like this Clubsport. It just has that classic Golf GTI composure down a road. really does let you carry speed. It deals with whatever you throw at it. It's a seriously capable car, this. As it should be for £40,000.
That brings us to the end of our truncated trip through the last 45 years of the Golf GTI. Is the Clubsport 45 worth having? Well, it's good value if you are planning on adding the Akrapovic exhaust to a standard Clubsport, or if you particularly love special editions. Otherwise, not so much. I'm a party pooper, I know.
Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, Golf GTI. Hello everyone, thank you very much indeed for watching that. I hope you enjoyed the quick run through some of the Golf GTI's back catalogue. I think we did pretty well to get through 3 of them plus the new car in a day, but which ones did I miss out? Which ones should I have done? I'm actually sitting in at the moment a Golf GTI in Spanish clothing. It's a Cupra Leon. Anyway, this is a bit where I obviously ask you to subscribe to the channel, so please do that if you haven't already, and if you have, or if you're about to, please make sure you've turned on all the notifications, not just the little bell icon, but all the other ones in settings, because that really helps us. And why not have a look at social media channels as well, because there's lots of new stuff going up there. Jamil's been doing some excellent stuff for Instagram and TikTok and Twitter and all that. Just search for Carfection. We're at Carfection Films on Instagram, and I'm at Henry Catchpole on Instagram. So there we are. Until next time, thank you very much indeed for watching.